It's time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
Thanks for joining us, my friends. Today, folks, we're going to talk about something that sometimes we don't want to talk about, but things happen in life, and we have to address them. One of these things, as we get older in life, there's such a thing called dementia and Alzheimer's. We need to learn as much as we can, but when we do have it, what do we do for it? Today I have Paula Hahn, who is the Executive Director of Fritzingertown Senior Living Community, and Linda Palermo, who is the Director of Nursing at Fritzingertown. We're going to talk about different things about dementia and Alzheimer's and the care and the whole bit. For girls, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for asking
Paula,
us.
you're no stranger to Sam Lesante. You're going to be co-host of my show pretty soon. Linda, nice to see you again.
Thank you.
You hated to say the word cancer. You know, you had the big C. Well, now cancer is just a regular conversation because we have so many advances in medicine and technology. Not saying you want to get it, but you know, at least you have a shot at it. At Fritzingertown, you have a secured dementia unit. Okay, so let's start off with the simple thing. You know, Linda, describe what the different types of dementia.
Dementia actually is a blanket of several diseases that have the same characteristics. Alzheimer's is one of them. That is a disease that has progressed in the United States and throughout the world. It's a problem. They really don't know the cause. They are starting to find some things out. It may be diet related, genetics. There's also Lewy body dementia, which is a more aggressive, it mimics Alzheimer's, but it's more aggressive. The families will see, the person will get the same symptoms as Alzheimer's, but they progress very quickly. And we tend to see Lewy body in younger individuals. The other is vascular dementia. Years ago, they would call that senility. But vascular dementia is just like any part of your body. Your veins and arteries can get clogged. Same goes for the tiny little vessels in your brain. And if there's enough obstruction, even though it's microvascular, it can lead to an area where if they were to CAT scan you, they may see an area that looks almost like a stroke. Strokes can also cause dementia. Any damage to the brain, traumatic head injury can cause dementia. But what we see overall in all of those with dementia is that their forgetfulness will start first. The person who's able to manage their checkbook, pay their bills, take care of their home, drive their cars, and get to their proper destination, they'll start to see that fracture. Most times people come to Fritzingertown when they've already been into the medium or late stages of dementia. By the time they get to that medium stage, they've already has started to have dementia for probably 4 to 5 years. You start to write yourself notes. They use reminders at home to make them realize they have an appointment or they have medication to take. You'll start to see that system starts to break down. And most times the families will start to see that they're not taking care of their personal hygiene, they're missing appointments, they can get lost when they're out, whether they're walking or driving. That's usually when we get the resident at Fritzingertown. So it's already there's been a progression at home. Very often the families, they can hide those symptoms for a long time, and the families don't always recognize it until something happens. They see something drastic and families are not all local. So sometimes families are seeing them a couple times a year at the holidays, and they notice a big change.
Are there any tests that people can take to know if they have dementia, first of all?
Most doctors should be able, your PCP would be able to do a mini mental test. There's a series of questions that someone can be asked, and they can see if they can remember 2 to 4 words at a time. They can also do scans. You can CAT scan to make sure that there isn't a different underlying reason, like a stroke or blood in your brain, or sometimes there's a birth defect that shows up later in life. So there are some testing, and there's also blood work. There's certain things that can be off in your blood work that can make you forgetful, can make you not be able to do your normal tasks that you normally do. So the first thing is the doctor needs to know that these things are happening. So yes, if family members see that there's a change in someone, first step should be to their doctor, right, Paula?
Absolutely.
My question is then, at that particular point in time, just like you were told that you have high blood pressure, you have something, you start addressing that via medicine or whatever exercise. So if you're told that you're coming into dementia, is it best to look at a Fritzingertown secured dementia unit when they're in the beginning stages? Or how does that, I mean, so how do we know when that transition to be made? Will they get better, or is it just gradually, is it like a death sentence here?
The beginning phases, they could still be managed at home as long as they're safe. If you have a person that's wandering from their home, the police are involved where they find them in the middle of the street, then that would definitely be a time that you need to be in a unit. Prior to that, there are some medications that can be started that doesn't reverse the dementia, but slows down the progression. The two that we see mostly used is Aricept and Namenda. Now, they have to have good organ function. Some meds are contraindicated because somebody may have an underlying problem that they could have side effects from it. So it's not for everyone.
Mm-hmm. So I'm just trying to think of how a person could regulate their lives. What do you recommend that if you have signs of dementia, what do you recommend the families or the spouses to do?
They need to be monitored.
Mm-hmm. And such as?
Such as they should not be on their own in the home 24 hours a day. Even if it means that you're making sure that they have food in the house, they're taking their medications, they're home, they care for themselves with their personal hygiene. So any of those struggles should be, you could assist them. You don't want to pull them out of their familiar surroundings too early, because they still may be able to function with some supervision. But I think if you're going to leave someone completely on their own, they're going to struggle. And the isolation is one of the worst things.
That's for sure.
Because you think about it, the elderly, their friends pass away, or their friends become ill. Maybe they were relying on a spouse to get them to church, or maybe, anything like that. Their
routine.
Friends, it's fractured.
Yeah.
So they tend to isolate anyway, the elderly. So that is definitely a red flag that does not help somebody with dementia.
On that note, Paul and I have discussed this many times, where you see people who are by themselves, okay, and they're fairly decent health, but when you go to Fritzingertown assisted living, they're able to mingle, they're able to see their own peers, they're able to, now that's not the dementia, but it's, when you're saying, you isolate yourself.
Correct.
There's nothing worse than being isolated.
Yep. The
I mean,
loneliness.
Yeah,
yes.
the loneliness could drive you crazy.
And the depression enhances the dementia.
Right. So Paula, in going into, you have the secured dementia unit, okay? What does that mean?
It's designed for people who may have the tendency to elope or not be familiar with their surroundings enough where they may try to leave the building unsupervised, which then becomes quite dangerous.
In that unit that you have, and I've been there many, many times, I'm going to go to break because I want to expand on what I saw and what you do in helping that person. I want to ask you, Linda, do you think, now you've been dealing with these dementia units dementia people for a while, okay? Have you seen any progress in the medical area, in the treatment to help sustain dementia people, or do you see in the future anything that could be of extreme beneficial to the individual?
I think, and I don't know the name of it, but there is a brand new med that just was FDA approved to help Alzheimer patients. What I see is making sure that they have a structured environment, they are stimulated to their degree of ability. You present them with a happy memory. It may be that you can only make someone smile with dementia for a minute, but that minute is so worth it. They may not recognize their families, but they certainly can recognize kindness, soft touch, a smile on your face, and familiar. You want to bring in their past. So we know that with dementia, they can remember when they're 30, 40, 50 years old. So you want to bring those memories in. I think the more we learn about what activities work and what are positive for them, and hopefully medication will continue to grow for them. And it's awareness. It's being able to know how to talk to somebody with dementia.
That's another key thing, coping and having the patience. Because it's like, well, Dad, I told you that already. I told you it was over there, okay, and so you lose your patience. That poor person doesn't realize
Correct.
that they forgot where they put the keys or the remote control or whatever, okay, and that takes, I think, a big strain on the caregiver, don't you think?
Absolutely. I mean, I think our first impulse is to reorient. We have so many families who say, if the resident is asking for their husband and their husband passed away years ago, it's not beneficial to keep saying to them, he passed away years ago. Every time they hear it, they're hearing it for the first time. So it's upsetting to them every time you say it. The better thing is to say, to bring up a memory. Tell me about your wedding. Tell me about what your favorite thing to do with Daddy was, or whatever. It's to try to bring a happy memory out, but to try to reorient them to the fact that person passed away is just making it happen over and over and over.
It's a difficult task, I'll tell you.
Oh, yes.
It's a difficult task.
Very
Folks,
difficult.
I'm talking to Paula Hahn, who has been at the Fritzingertown only 37 years, doing a great job, and Linda Palermo, who is the Director of Nursing. Come back to talk a little bit more about dementia. Hope you never have to experience it, but it's good to have information about it. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. Once again, thank you so much for making the Sam Lesante Show the #1 talk show in northeastern Pennsylvania. I appreciate that very much. Taken from the scientific poll, Susquehanna Polling and Research. They were voted the #1 research company, polling company in the United States, and so therefore we appreciate your response to that. We're talking about dementia today and Alzheimer's, things that sometimes we don't want to talk about, but they're facts in life. Joining me today is Paula Hahn, who is Executive Director of Fritzingertown Senior Living Community, and Linda Palermo, who is the Director of Nursing, talking about dementia. talking about dementia, Linda, and families that have to deal with people with dementia, okay? Words of advice.
First of all, my heart breaks for family members or anyone that has a loved one who's suffering with dementia. It's a devastating illness, and it is terminal. It will progress to a point where it will be terminal. As caregivers, we watch it on a daily basis. They form relationships and feelings for the residents, and it is a loss for them when they see someone deteriorate. It's disturbing to them. For families, they're losing their loved one over a long period of time. There is certainly a form of grieving that occurs. I often say that once the resident gets to a point where they don't know they have dementia, it's actually a peaceful time for them. For the family member, they continue to watch this person become who they never were. And their grieving is over a long period of time. It is very devastating, and my heart breaks for them. If you've never experienced it, I hope you don't. It's awful.
It's amazing at your unit, Paula. As you know, I've been there with a family member, and it's like the attitude that you have to have when you're going in to visit your loved one, and what you're going to be able to experience and be able to bring that, as you said, that smile, that touch, that loving, and inside your heart is breaking.
Yes.
Okay. And so it's a very difficult, it's sometimes, but yet it's still needed.
Yeah.
It's still needed. You can't, some people say, I can't go because, well, it's a difficult thing.
It's not
don't you
about
think?
you.
That's right.
I mean, yes, it certainly is. We certainly recognize the grieving aspect of a family member. Our responsibility primarily is that resident. Once you come through the doors, you're leaving your reality and entering their world wherever they are in that day.
Yeah. And let me tell you, okay, and I know you a long time, and we're able to call a spade, as they say. Your people in that dementia unit are second to none. They are caring.
They are.
The boat shifts, okay, and they respond. I don't know how they do it, because when you're tied up, etc., and then the family member calls and how is Sam doing, and and then you have to redirect because you're just taking care of somebody. I saw that in action with my own eyes and my wife. Okay, they're second to none. Okay, and it's so gratifying to see that, because you're leaving your loved one saying, "Oh man," and Linda. You say, "Boy, I remember when she was this, and I remember when she was that," and you try to do that, and then you just see that, etc. So I guess it's a matter of sustaining what you can and having that attitude that you have, and hopefully that the medication will come down the road. Did they have that many years ago? I mean, or were people dying younger? They didn't know that people had Alzheimer's or dementias. I mean, like in the 20s and the 30s. I mean, you never heard about dementia or Alzheimer's, or maybe it was senility or something.
Hardening of the arteries.
They used to call it organic brain syndrome. Remember that,
Right.
Paula? It was just a blanket, or senility. But most times they can find Alzheimer's on post-mortem. They can actually, so it's been studied, and there's been breakthroughs that they're able to give something a name.
A lot of the medications that are given aren't necessarily to treat the Alzheimer's. I mean, it's not going to treat Alzheimer's. There's no cure for Alzheimer's. But it does treat the behavior. If someone is frightened, if someone is anxious, if someone is hallucinating, if someone is delusional, which is very, very common, the medications treat that, because and sometimes you don't treat it. If the hallucinations that they're having are pleasant and they're not afraid of it, you leave it alone. If it's something that's frightening or disturbs their day or overwhelms them, then it's certainly, there are medications that you can use to treat that, which is often called psychosis, which, people think, when somebody's psychotic that it's a horrible thing. It's not a thing like on television. But when you have hallucinations and delusions, it is often is a psychotic event, and you can treat that, take that part of their illness away, which makes it much more livable.
In dealing with that livable situation, you have activities, you have planned activities. Now, the activities that I see when I walked in the unit, there's certain things where they may be singing, or they're reading, or they're so are these things, how do you know what activities to have them perform?
We found they never, or until the very late stages, lose the ability to recognize music and religion.
Yeah.
So that's incorporated in all of their days. There's many people that aren't, that don't talk or verbalize, but you put on a hymn or you start singing Happy Birthday, and they know,
They perk.
and they do it. But the activities are geared for people with a shorter memory span. You're not going to have them sit down and do a bingo game for an hour. You're going to do something that lasts 10 minutes, because after that they're going to get up and walk away. If they're, if it's something that is boring to them, or that they feel they can't take part in.
What I liked about your unit is that they're able to monitor the degree of what that person, the advances. And like when I asked you, should we go to hospice, and well, there's a time when you got to make that. So, you're able to monitor that, and all I could say, then, as you said, boy, the families, some of them can cope very well. Some of them just cannot cope, and
it's difficult.
it's-
I feel more sorry for them sometimes,
yeah.
for the loved ones,
Yeah.
than
Do you have counseling?
we do have. We will recommend. The Alzheimer's Association has a lot of resources, and I think that's where the family could benefit, educating themselves about the illness. And then they do have groups where they can meet and, oh, my mother did that, or this is how I handled, that's
Very important, yeah.
It's important, and it's
Yeah.
important for the families to tell us when someone comes into our facility what worked at home, what was their favorite thing. Was it baseball? Was it knitting? Was it what did they like to do? That's very important to share that. Or their favorite food is this. So whatever is their favorites, to try to bring that in, because they won't forget that. And the last sense to go is your smell. So smell memories are also important. Sometimes the unit will bake bread, like just to walk in to the dining room and smell familiar.
Yeah.
They all baked pies,
Yeah,
and and do activities where they can make a pie. Do like baking
That's
activities.
Great. Well, all I could say is that it's something that you hope you never have to experience, but if you do, thank goodness we have Fritzinger's Senior Living Community. You have a secured unit, and once again, you tell the girls and the young people working there, they're trained well.
Takes a special person.
Yes, there's no question. When I see these young people and have the care that they have,
Yes.
it made me feel good. Folks, I'm talking to Paula Hahn. She's been at Fritzingertown Senior Living Community for over 37 years, and Linda Palermo, who is Director of Nursing at Fritzingertown. They're there to help if you need their help. See you next time.